The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Welcome to it. Back with you on a Monday. It's Hail Varsity Radio. We're presented by Currency for all your equipment financing needs. Go Currency. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. We are back from Boulder. As I made our way back in a monsoon. My God. We saw Moses and his boat and all the animals, man. It was it was pretty heavy downpour once you crossed the Colorado line. And it stopped once we got right to Lincoln. Elijah continued his trend of nacho cheese on hot dogs.
You continued your trend of not driving.
No, I know. I know Elijah's a little bent out of shape about that, but
no, I'm really not. I enjoy the driving part of it.
I said, "Hey, are you ready? Can I help you out?" And then 2 hot dogs later, it's like good night time. I'm like, I'm out. I'm drowsy now. What's up? So, flew out, drove back, and Elijah made the back and forth. Listen, you had trouble dealing with how your Broncos finished. Nebraska fans have had trouble dealing with how that ball game finished, and we'll hear from Coach Rhule in a little bit. He met the media today, plenty of reaction. So let's get into this. Numbers and first hour, all for you. If you want to join us, can do so with Hail Varsity, 489-1240, 489-1240, 800-825-5865. Can email the show, chris@hailvarsity.com. And just to say thank you to all of you who made the trip out to Colorado and said what's up to us at Blur Parties. From wherever you listen, everyone's just had a beer with a guy named Bo, Husker fan from Florida. Brian and Jeff, 2 brothers that have been listening for a long time. We can't say how much we appreciate you. Then all the folks came up and said what's up at the Blur Parties or at the Coloradoans for Nebraska event with Gary Michaels, and it was just a great weekend. And the game was, hey, Elijah, that event, that environment was just electric. And it was juiced, it was loud, it was passionate. And a lot of Nebraska fans had to put up with your typical Colorado screw you Nebraska fan behavior, and there was even some brawls in the stands that we've seen on social media. But as we were leaving, hustling to get back to the Blur Parties at the embassy, I mean, the trash talk we encountered was more so tame. It's as tame as I've ever heard it, and it was, hey, you guys at least have a good zoo.
We did hear that.
Buff fan talking about Lincoln and Omaha Zoo. Hey, you guys have a good zoo at least. And hey, how about the volleyball team? I mean, it was comments like that. And man, this football team is maddening because in one instance we can talk about how that was a winnable game. Colorado may go bowling this year. Colorado can still be the darling of college football and game day and big noon kickoff. All of those things can be real. But what isn't real is this mindset, this topic of disrespect. And it's a motivational tactic that the Buffs in Colorado and Dion are going to keep inside their walls. And thank God it got clarified a little bit by Coach Rhule today, because there's all sorts of hand grenades being thrown out by members of the Sanders family about what disrespect is and isn't, what's real, what's fake. And Dion's finding ways to get guys motivated or get them locked in. That's his job, right? And we'll talk to Dr. Rob Zadiska tomorrow, and he had just an incredible motivational tactic ahead of the Nebraska-Colorado game in '94 we'll ask him about. So whatever it takes, right? But there's no evidence, and facts need to be checked before there's a painting of of Matt Rhule and this Nebraska football team being disrespectful. They play hard, they play fast, and they clearly play loose with the football. Right?
Clearly.
So that's what you need to know about Nebraska football 2023 so far. They aren't there to relieve themselves on the buff or to sharpen their spikes on the logo at midfield. That didn't happen. We'll hear from Rhule in a moment. But the bigger picture is what? Nebraska football in 2023, did they get to that finish line? Have you reassessed your expectations on Nebraska football for 2023? Is it going to be still a bowl season, or have you lowered that ceiling to be maybe they get to 4, maybe they get to 5? I think the defense, Elijah, is good enough to keep them in every ball game. There just has to be obvious progress on offense where you're not scoring 10 points a game. Defense is good, but they're not, we can hold a team to 3 or 7 good. I don't believe. Maybe so on the schedule. I don't know. But you can't be just one-sided. You can't be either just left-handed or right-handed with this football team. You got to get your quarterback stuff figured out. You got to get a better offensive line on the left side, and you still got to ground and pound it. You got to find somebody that can scare a defense over the top. Those are all things to do as the season moves forward. You've got 2 weeks to figure out your quarterback. You've got 2 weeks to figure out your offensive line, and you got 2 weeks to get yourself right as an offense, a defense, and a special teams unit before Harbaugh and company roll it.
And the expectations topic is something I've wrestled with a good amount since the game on Saturday. What should Nebraska's expectations be for this season moving forward? Because we see the warts that this team has, especially offensively. And as to get back to your original point about Buffs fans, I think the more general sentiment walking out of the stadium from Buffs fans was not the venom that a lot of Husker fans have come to expect from Colorado fans. It was more a we're all going to laugh at Nebraska together type vibe from Buffs fans. I'm not saying there was outward Buffs fans coming up to Husker fans and laughing in their faces. It wasn't like that, but that was the general mood of just like, man, after all the trash talking that Nebraska fans did this summer, that was the performance you lay out there. I think it's kind of comical. That was more the vibe and the feel I got, and we got that from Colorado fans on our post-game show too, that it was more, man, Nebraska, once great program, now it's time to laugh at them. And
there's sympathy. They're like, God, they've fallen hard and they've hit their head.
Yeah, like thank God we aren't them. And thank God that Nebraska, not the biggest laughing stock, I guess not the biggest embarrassment to the Big Ten this weekend. That goes to Michigan State and Mel Tucker. But whenever I look at this performance on Saturday, I think the main thought I have in terms of moving forward is, can this team get better? Can this team reach a point where you're not hopping on Twitter during the game and it's people laughing at Nebraska and people laughing at the comedy of errors that is their offense? That's what this program is right now, is people look at this Husker football program and say, man, what a joke. What a joke that a once great program now looks like this. They're playing gross football. It's hard to watch offensively. It reminds me of last year's Broncos offense in terms of how hard it is to watch that offense. Even whenever they get positive plays, they're going to find a way to shoot themselves in the foot. It feels just like the grander college football world looks at Nebraska and says, if it wasn't so sad, it would be funny. And it is sad because of where Nebraska was years ago. It's I'm not calling this season lost by any means. I think there are positives you can take away from it, but I think you got to get a bowl game out of your mind right now based on what that offense is. Even if you go clean up the turnovers, you think about one-dimensional offenses that have had success, especially in the Big Ten West. They've been there. Iowa, Wisconsin,
Illinois
last
had a guy
year.
Named Art playing quarterback, right?
But the difference between those teams and what Nebraska is right now, and maybe this can change by the end of the year, but the difference between those teams and this team is those teams could run the ball 14 times in a drive and still cap it off with a touchdown. Their offensive line and their running backs were that good that if they go line up there and call 14 straight rushing plays, they're going to pick up 5 yards a pop. They're going to go all the way down the field. There's nothing the defense can do to stop it. If this Husker team tries to run the ball 14 straight times, eventually the defense is going to load up the box and say, all right, beat you with your arm. Beat us with your arm, Jeff Sims. We know you'll underthrow a guy. You'll make a bad decision. It'll end up in the arms of the defender. And if not, you'll drop a snap. That's where I'm at with this Husker team right now. I'm not saying it can't get better. Bowl game is feeling more and more distant as these first 2 weeks have been played. And if this Husker team can just reach a point where it's not somewhat of an embarrassment for Husker fans to watch on Saturdays, which is kind of where it is right now and where it has been for a couple years now, I think you can see some positives. I mean, there are positive takeaways, especially on the defensive side of the ball with some of the younger cats that are getting some play time. Like, there are some positives to be taken away, but it's so hard to see those positives whenever you get to the end of the game on Saturday and just hang your head and you don't want to be seen by the Colorado fans because of how embarrassing the performance was, especially offensively.
Get to your phone calls, 489-1240, 800-825-5865. Anonymous chimes in. Quit talking about a possible bowl game. This team will be lucky to win this team will be lucky to win more than 2 games. You know, I'm still thinking you need to reach a bowl game. I know they're 0-2. I know they've got quarterback problems. Elijah's right that the offensive line isn't good enough to line up and hammer it 8 consecutive, 9 consecutive, 10 consecutive plays and find their way to the end zone. They aren't that good, but they need to get better at the point where they can complete a pass that they need to complete to the right team. They need to get to the point where they're able to run the football and get better as the year goes on and find a quarterback that can get it done for you. Maybe that is hanging with Sims and watching him actually change, or making a change at quarterback. And that's the thing. That's the other elephant today, is to tackle what you do at quarterback. It may not be an issue because Matt Rhule is going to make sure that Sims is looking halfway normal health-wise as practice progresses this week, or he'll have to go with a different quarterback. If he says that they can win with all 3 quarterbacks, they'll tailor a system or some play calls to do that. And I don't think Saturday was as much as putting Sims in position to fail. It was more so that it was just awful execution by the player versus the play call. I put that on the player, not the coach. Mm-hmm. Who's on the line?
We have Elijah on the line.
Okay, a different Elijah, unless you're just sneaking off into the corner. Elijah, go ahead. Welcome into Hail Varsity. Thanks for calling.
Hey, fellas. Thanks for taking my call.
What's on your mind, man?
Yeah, I guess 2 things. So I listened to the press conference today with Rhule, and, I wanted to be really frustrated. So kudos to Rhule. I think he really did a great job of talking me off the cliff there and kind of bringing me back to earth. He's definitely a class act, and you mentioned it earlier. He kind of cleared the air on some things. So shout out to Rhule there. The other thing I want to hear more on is he going to maintain that same accountability for ball control across the team? Keep all players accountable to it. He seemed kind of dodgy when asked about that. He just brought up the one where the center, he needed to evaluate that one, but Sims dropped the ball twice. So is he going to maintain that same level of standard across the board or not? Let
me ask you this, Elijah, and it's not to jab at you. It's a legit question that needs to be talked about. Is there a same standard across the board, or are there different spots for different positions? I.e., you need to not fumble if you're a running back. You sure as hell need to not fumble if you're a quarterback, but quarterback kind of runs the offense, fair to say? So how much leeway do you give the quarterback that's had more turnover issues than Grant that didn't see time at all? And that's just it. Your quarterback's going to handle the football more than the running back, but you need to be more competent with holding onto the football in both positions for sure. But at running back, if you're trying to go 4-minute drill and put it away against Minnesota and you don't, even though they made a good play, maybe you should have seen Grant on Saturday. How does a team take not seeing Grant, but yet Sims is still in there, and the only reason he was out is because he got hurt? I don't have an answer for that other than you're going to give the quarterback a little more leadway than your running back, but not much. It's harder to bench a quarterback theoretically than it is a running back in an offense. That's my answer. And you don't agree with that, Elijah, but I think there's more dominoes with the quarterback than there are the running back. Does that help at all, Elijah?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, sorry. It does. I think that makes 100% sense, and I appreciate the insight there. I just think the overall concern is, looking at it, kind of how I treat work is, as long as everyone is being held to the same standard. That's what you really look for, right?
No, you got to, for sure. Don't disagree at all. And if Sims is healthy and goes and commits a turnover against Northern Illinois, it's time to go watch the ball game. Period. Thanks for the phone call. Appreciate it. 489-1240.
And whenever I think about this quarterback discussion, I actually think I was more in your camp immediately following the game and during the game on Saturday, just in terms of there is importance to having continuity with your quarterback and letting your quarterback feel some things out. But as more time goes on, I look at it and I say, I can't believe you haven't even given the backup a chance in a game. And Heinrich Carper, he got a brief chance.
Were you? And the reason he got a chance is because of injury.
Yeah.
It wasn't because you went to the bullpen. And I was halfway. Man, I was halfway after the fumble, after the fumble to Irvin with the handoff. Listen, the snap with the motion guy, bad. Okay, the snap and the handoff that was not good. It was a 50-50 deal. Irvin should have had it. Bonner should have made his block and not got caved in to the handoff to where the play was going. Of all the turnovers, the Irvin one, the snap that hit the H-back, not on Sims. Then we get down. The problem is we can pay out 4 to talk about. We'll have more thoughts here. 489-1240. No, quarterback situation's got to get remedied clearly. What's your morale like as a Nebraska fan moving forward?
Hail Varsity Radio is live. Now, back to Schmitty.
Schmitty's a great guy, but he don't have a brain.
And Elijah.
You want me to speak? When I point you, yeah.
On Hail Varsity Radio.
I like that. I'm really not that guy. I make him drive. I tell him when to talk. I'm just a tyrant. Back with you on a Monday. It's Hail Varsity Radio. You can dial up 489-1240, 800-825-5865. Chris at HailVarsity.com. An email from some disturbing Greek photography. Some of the fraternity houses went all in on Coach Rhule. Listeners shared the pictures with us from their banner they hung. We'll get to Jack's comment. David, also our gambling expert, says the win total right now by Vegas is at 4.5 wins. So the under looks gorgeous, as one Bert Sugar would say. Right now for Nebraska, my expectation is for them to get it figured out and get to 6 still. And with the whole Grant double standard discussion point, yeah, that's been a popular narrative. I wish I would have seen Grant on Saturday. I know he fumbled against Minnesota. I know it was crushing. Grant's your home run threat at running back. If you get things lathered up, I would have loved to have seen Grant in there despite his fumble problem. You're just like, dude, are you high? What are you talking about? But he was milk cartoned or punished or whatever. He didn't see him. And Ramirez nice, but Ramirez's speed on paper doesn't match the game for me as far as breaking one off. And there were some lanes for him to do more than just a nice chunk play. And he got caught. I think Grant gives you that home run threat. I hope he's healthy and back at it for games to come. And Nebraska's quarterback, whoever is in there, needs to quit taking bad care of the football. Whether that's Sims or Pretty or Chubb, I don't know.
And my thing is 2-game sample size is smaller than what it was whenever you include Georgia Tech in the same discussion.
Do you look at? I mean, dude, you've got enough footage here and now. You can just erase the Georgia Tech tape, and you have enough footage now to have him on a zero tolerance policy the rest of the season.
Well, my problem is after seeing what you saw against Minnesota. I mean, if you would have told me on Friday evening, whenever I sat down with you, if you told me, hey, Jeff Sims, he's going to have 3 first-half turnovers tomorrow, I'd say, well, he's probably not going to start the second half then.
No, he shouldn't play.
And he did. He had 3 first-half turnovers, and he continues to come out. And that's what worries me, is this is not an issue of...
Why?
This is not a...
Because he's the best you got.
This was not a, well, it's 0-0, and then Jeff Sims, you know what, defense made a great play, pick 6, 7-0. This wasn't that. This was 3 turnovers in the first half.
Gift-wrapped 13 points.
All of which are completely avoidable and are deeper than the defense making a great play. Dropping a snap again. On the plate of Fedoni, he had Fedoni open. He was a little late with the throw, and he threw it about 10 yards behind him. There was a window to fit that one in there, and he wasn't able to go out and execute. This was not the defense of Colorado going out and making great plays. These are all gift-wrapped turnovers, and that's my problem. We need to get to the phone lines here. But
Casey's been waiting. Casey, thanks for hanging on. Go ahead. Welcome into Hail Varsity.
No, you guys could have kept going. I was enjoying the conversation.
No, it's all right.
I guess my thing is, I understand the panic, but isn't this kind of what we signed on when we got Matt Rhule as a coach? Like, I know he said that he felt that he was in his year 2 or year 3 mode, but the reality is we're still in a 1-year, first-year head coach, and we know that he's a builder. We know that this is what it's going to be, and I'm going to tell you guys, there's a lot of people that are out there saying, hey, we should have got Dion because he flipped it in a year. What I watched and how I guess, I don't know how to say it, I would not want Dion as my coach at Nebraska. That might turn me off from being a fan instantly.
You don't like the personality, right?
Yeah, and so I agree that there's a right way for him to do it. I like the way we're doing it, and I think we are getting better. Yeah, the turnovers have got to change, but my pick on that is, and I say this as a coach, if you make that change on your quarterback, in middle of the game like that, you could just ruin his confidence. And then my question comes in is, what if Heinrich does the same thing? And then what do you do? Do you go back to
then you're hosed. You are absolutely screwed. If you make a change, you better be right, and it better be better.
Yeah, and so that's why I'm sitting there saying it's like what I feel like. Yeah, you can make the case that this is who Sims always is, but you know what? This is only Sims' second time with Coach Rhule. This is only his second game. Give him time to evaluate it. Give him time to look at it. And I think that's where I would try to tell Nebraska fans is, yeah, we've been living this for 20 years. We've been living it for 20 years. But the guy you got there, this is his year 2. And the guys he's brought in are year 1. This is their year 1. This is this group's year 1. And while we've been waiting 20 years, you got to give the guy who said that, hey, this is going to be a long process, give that guy the chance to build the house. Let's not set everything he's done on fire.
Damn it, the sunroom's not done. You're fired.
And I say that nicely because that is the narrative that's coming out of some people in Nebraska, is that we should fire Rhule now.
No, I mean, I think the honeymoon part is over for the quarterback. I don't think that's the case for Rhule. Some of you have already punted on Rhule, and I get it because that was kind of a tone. If that's where you're at, you're absolutely have the right to have that feeling, but it's too soon. It's absolutely too soon. The problem is the carryover. This is a to be continued episode, you feel like, from coach to coach to coach to coach, and it's not. It's where it's at in real time right now, where you're at with game 2 with a new quarterback, game 2 with a new head coach.
Well, and I guess that goes to my next point there is what I would say is, let's say we got Dion. Here's my question is, first season after Dion leaves, what's Colorado's win total?
Dion is leaving on the next flight out of Denver for the next better offer. Maybe that's the NFL. Maybe that's the University of Florida. He is short-term at Colorado.
But does that necessarily matter right now? Colorado was searching for relevancy whenever they hired Deion Sanders, and they
will go back to anonymity once he's gone, unless the offensive coordinator stays. They keep the OC that's there, right? Maybe they can salvage it. Maybe they get a good hire that actually sticks. But people... That's a hard place to survive, is Boulder.
Well, that's my point is Dion, not Colorado.
Right.
Dion, the brand of Dion is able to bring in 5 stars. As Colorado as a brand, and can Dion build Colorado into a blue blood brand that can bring in 5 stars in 3 years?
No,
okay.
They could get up to a level where they're winning a bunch of ball games, and they could even go into the Big 12 and compete for a conference title. But once he's gone, the next guy better be phenomenal at developing, Okay. Because you can go get five star. And Casey, thanks for the phone call, bud. Appreciate you tuning in. The next guy better be able to go find talent, or it better be a name like that he hands off to, because Deion's it. Deion is absolutely it with his ability to connect with guys that are high level. Elijah, they're the 5-star and then come in and play right away, and so far perform really well. Mm-hmm. No one else can really. You've seen other programs do it. Even Saban. I mean, Saban's got 1 billion 5-stars. Ohio State's got 1 billion 5-stars. This is the first time we've seen it, aside from the Trevor Lawrences, okay, or the Tuas, come in and kill it right away. I mean, it's been a while. It's been a while.
I don't understand the sentiment here. Well, I still think, okay, two things can be true. Mm-hmm. I think Matt Rhule is a better fit for Nebraska than Deion Sanders would have been at Nebraska. But I'll also say, I think you're fooling yourself if you think Deion wouldn't have had more success at Nebraska in year one than Matt Rhule's having right now.
I don't disagree with that at all. But again, it's long-term, short-term. Do you expect Rhule to be in Lincoln longer than Deion is in Boulder? I do.
Well, it depends how year two goes, huh?
Well, and listen, does Deion see a second year in Boulder? Especially if it's a magic season. 489-1240. We'll get to your phone calls. Jeff emailed in, and this is the email. Chris wanted to share this with you. Went to the game Saturday. Attached is a photo showing a banner hanging from a CU fraternity we passed by. Pretty much sums up our whole day with CU fans on Saturday. Their fans are aggressive in their rudeness and seem to take pride in being obnoxiously subhuman as can be. We laughed at the idea that these people wagging their middle fingers directly in our faces were lucky we were nice guys who weren't looking for any kind of fight, hoping they would eventually do this to a lesser nice Husker fan looking for some action. We'll take your calls here. Elijah's getting you lined up. If you're on hold, stay there, and we'll get to you. I'll finish your email, Jeff. But listen, Jeff was at the game. He was in Boulder. Many of you went to Boulder. Many of you were harassed. Some of you maybe saw some of the Donniebrooks that happened within the stands. But overall, to Elijah's point, it was more of a sympathy point and laugh at Nebraska. Look what you've become. Mm-hmm. Than anything else. Who's with us?
We have Will on the line.
Will, thanks for hanging in, man. Thanks for the phone call. Go ahead.
Yeah, hey, guys. Hey, first off, I wanted to cry, but I decided I better not do that on the radio. But second thing is, the more and more I watch the game on Saturday, Deion, and I will never call him coach whatever, brought in a whole new crew. He got rid of all the old. And you can see it on Nebraska, especially the offensive line, because we carried over a lot of the offensive linemen, that once they got behind or things started going bad, they got content with losing. It's what it felt like to me. Deion got rid of all that and started fresh. I think that's why he's a step ahead of Nebraska right now. You have to get rid of all that old, and hopefully not getting rid of the old like Rhule's doing, it doesn't carry over to the younger guys. Because if you look at the defense, all our new players, they weren't content with the losing part.
No,
they fought through the game.
It's a mentality, right? It's an absolute mentality, and I don't know that that the O-line's content on being as inconsistent as they are. I honestly think their confidence, that was a big talking point in the offseason. And it's been a talking point. I think their confidence is obviously shaky because as a unit, and a certain side of that unit has had issues. They're the ones making the penalties. There's the ones that are not executing. I think they're also part of that talking point from Rhule that they want it so bad they're trying too hard. They're afraid to lose, and then it messes with it. Well, I got to rock to a break. Okay. Thank you for the phone call. Appreciate you listening. More of your thoughts, 489-1240, 800-825-5865.
And now,
back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Plenty of your comments to get to in the StreamYard. Can watch the show, the Hail Varsity YouTube channel, the Hail Varsity Radio Twitter feed at HVarsity Radio. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, give us a find on Twitter as well at Schmidt_radio at Herbal Essence. Nick says, on a positive note, at least there's not 2018 Cam Jurgens snapping said football to Jeff Sims. That would be bad. Mike says 2-10, maybe 3-9. What he gets to. We have Pete on the line. Pete, go ahead. Thanks for calling.
How you doing?
We're good. We're hanging in today.
I guess, in my opinion, instead of him, the quarterback, giving us a chance to win, he's basically taken that chance completely away with his play. And that's not really fair to all the other players that practice and put in all the work. And I just don't understand how we can be a University of Nebraska and we have nobody behind him that can be any better than 3 to 4 turnovers a game. That is absolutely pathetic. So hopefully Rhule, in year 2, year 3, we'll get this thing going, but I think we're quite a ways off.
It feels like that, but, Pete, thanks for the phone call. Elijah, I look at the defense, and I'm going, with a little less bad luck that you made yourself, you're 2-0. And that's my problem. And worst 1-1.
And that's my problem, is I know Matt Rhule is known for the rebuilding first year. You have a defense that's ready to win now. The defense, what I've seen from them so far is ready to win now. Matt Rhule wants to win now. At least he says he does, but then he leaves in a quarterback that gives you 0 chance of winning. And I know we're not at practice. We don't know what the backups look like, but it's disrespectful to your defense to not even try to find a guy that's going to give you a better chance to win.
He's done more to hurt you than help you.
He's done more to hurt you than help you, and I don't understand why you don't at least – you're down by 3 scores in the second half, and Jeff Sims is still trotting out there. I know you want to help him find something that you can work on moving forward, but it's disrespectful to a defense that is ready to win now to not try to find a better option before it's too late.
When do you pull the plug, though? And the quick take is now. Damn, I've seen enough. You've lost the game twice. Rhule's not wrong. We got to get to some of his comments too. That it should not at 13-7, it should not turn into 36-14. And the defense did about everything in their power to keep you in it against Minnesota and against Colorado. And then they've gotten hammered on 3rd down, and they've gotten hammered on 3rd and long. So they're not completely blameless.
But does their performance in the second half change if you go into the halftime break with a 10-0 lead?
Oh, absolutely, because they're not on the field. Oh, it's all situational. It's all flow of the game. It's all armchair here to bitch about the defense. Well, they gave up 13 points in the fourth. They gave up 23 second half points. Well, dude, they were on the field forever, and they forced 3 field goals. It could have been Mike Leach v. Nebraska Part 2. All right, we'll get to the phones. Elijah's like, shut up, old man, and let's get to the phone calls.
Todd's been hanging on for forever.
Todd, God love you. Todd, thanks for calling. Go ahead, man.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Good. Thanks for the phone call.
Yeah, well, it's only 2 games. We're all frustrated. We got the right coach. Right now it looks like we don't have the right quarterback, very talented, just not football smart. But you look, I wouldn't broad brush the whole offense. I think the defense is Big West Championship, one of the best in the Big Ten. You look at Minnesota. They had 3 points with 5 minutes to go. We had the ball with a 10-3 lead. Everybody knows it should have been 17-3. I hope they sent something into the Big Ten because that was a travesty what happened. You got the Foxes shows it clearly the elbow going down. He's 3-4 inches over. But anyway, you have Grant. Just put your other hand on the ball, dude. The game's over. We had other chances. So you go on the road to a team that's physical, has got a lot of people back. And we had 3. They had 3 points, and we had the ball. So it should have ended 10-3 or whatever.
Now
against Colorado.
I know.
With 5 minutes to go in the half, they had 58 total yards, 0 points. And then your quarterback, we drove it down there. He fumbled. We drove it down there again. We had the snap that hit the guy coming across, and then we hit the goalpost. So I ain't putting this on the defense at all because the points you give up for half, all 13 were on Sims. You remember he ran out of bounds instead of going down, and they come back down and kick the field goal to go up 13-0.
They saved the timeout. Todd, the defense played out of their mind. The defense also got hit on 3rd down but it's all kind of residual, isn't it? And Todd, thanks for the phone call, bud. Appreciate you tuning in. It's residual, right? I mean, it is something that X, Y, and Z happened because of a turnover, a moment on offense, or something that doesn't help the defense, or it's awful field position. How many times can you go out there and keep Colorado at bay in a sudden change situation? You keep gifting Colorado opportunities, they're going to take advantage because they're super talented. Stan, thanks for hanging on. Go ahead, bud.
Yeah, what side of the ball did you play on when you were at Nebraska?
I didn't play. I never went to Nebraska to play football.
No,
Stan?
okay, I was thinking of somebody else. Anyway, if Rhule will not work out, I'll tell you right now. The last line of coaches cannot coach the quarterback. Every time I can tell who's going to be his receiver because he looks right at him when he backs out of the huddle. I can come down and teach a quarterback to look off his receiver if they cannot do that.
Stan, when did you play, bud?
He has not looked off one receiver all year long, and I think Nebraska wants to go undefeated.
The wrong way.
And they will. I think they will, because they're going to give every game away. They're not going to lose. They're giving games away.
Yeah, it's not been good, Stan.
I'm just saying, if in the next week's game, I don't know where Rhule sleeps, but how many quarterbacks look at their receiver backing out of the snap?
I mean, lock on?
One. Jeff Sims. Last year, before that, it was the guy that went to Kansas was good. After he went to Kansas and knew not to look at his receiver. Nebraska has never coached a quarterback worth a damn since Osborne was there.
You mean Zach Taylor wasn't worth a damn?
Well, but it was, who coached him up?
Jay Norvell, I think, was a quarterback's coach.
No, but who was the head coach?
It's Callahan.
I think he had been coached by Osborne before.
No, not even close, dude. T.O. had been retired 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Thanks for the phone call, Stan. Appreciate it. Stan's pissed.
I mean, he has right to be.
Absolutely.
He has right to be. I think he's a little bit off base. I mean, you can look at Satterfield more than Rhule in terms of coaching the quarterbacks.
Satterfield's getting the 1.4 to handle the quarterbacks and the offense. Mm-hmm. All right, 489-1240. We've got Coach McBride. What do you think? Charlie busted his remote Saturday night or Saturday afternoon?
No, I don't think he did.
No.
Defense played well.
No, I know, but he still had to watch. I mean, he had to watch those turnovers. He had to watch the defense get put in that position. We'll get to some emails, get to more of your phone calls, 489-1240. As we'll take more of your calls. We'll squeeze you in. And, Boulder and Nebraska. Buffs get to come to Lincoln a year from now. What will that look like? We'll wind down Hour 1 Hail Varsity, presented by Currency.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
About 10 minutes away, Coach McBride joins us. It's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by Currency. Let's get through the phone calls. George, get us kicked off here, bud.
Eric first.
Okay,
first.
Sorry. Eric, thank you. Eric, George, Greg, hang on. And Eric, floor is yours. Go for it. Thanks for calling.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Good. What do you say?
Good. So I just had a quick question, and it's kind of a realistic question. I do not foresee Nebraska ever winning another national title, but a conference title is a possibility. But at what point is it too much to ask for a winning record in a bowl game?
It's not. I mean, I think you have enough talent to get there, but you got to manage and have that talent on the field, and the talent that you have on the field can't be counterproductive, and that's the issue right now at hand when you look at the record.
And that's the discussion point today around Jeff Sims is the fact that expectations are higher at a place like Nebraska and then at a place like Baylor, and that's why Husker fans struggle so much to see a guy that seems to be hurting your cause to go make a bowl game more than helping it, and Jeff Sims behind the quarterback continue to get trotted out there.
All right, thanks, guys.
Appreciate it. Eric, thanks for the phone call. Greg next or George?
We go to George first.
George, thanks for calling. Go for it.
Hey, I just wanted to congratulate us on being the most spoiled, unrealistic fans I've ever seen in my life. This is game 2 of a team that just met each other basically this year, also just met their coaching staff this year. Our defense looks great. Yeah, our quarterback has done more to hurt us than anything else, but offense takes more than a little bit of time to get all on the same page than the defense does.
And the counterpoint to that argument, though, is that what we saw from Colorado on Saturday is a team that came together late, too. I know you had a couple of those guys playing together at Jackson State, but that's an offense that
Colorado
came together
offense.
And looks phenomenal.
But here's the thing. Deion Sanders has been an NFL player. He's had more than enough money and connections to raise his son in every camp that he could possibly go to, talk to every pro who ever wanted to talk to him. Yeah, that kid is going to be phenomenal. Jeff Sims has shot us in the foot. There's no question on that. But for crying out loud, it's game 2.
Hey, thank you for the phone call. Good stuff. That was a guy saying, pump the brakes a little bit here on just where the how big the fire is. Last call here for this hour.
Yes, Greg.
Greg, thanks for calling. Go for it.
Yeah, hey, appreciate the show. Won't take much of your time. But I don't know why we're so infatuated with the shotgun. I think we're putting Sims in a tough spot. Our offensive line is horrible out of that formation, and I'd have a hard time concentrating on the snap, looking at the ball, and not wondering what defensive lineman's coming through the line of scrimmage. Get him under center.
Got to take a peek.
Run some bootlegs.
Yeah.
Get him in a better spot.
No, I the shotgun formation has been problematic against Colorado with catching the snap. And thanks for the phone call. Appreciate you tuning in, 489-1240. I think he was looking to run before he caught the snap. I think that was probably some quarterback-designed draw or counter stuff earlier in the game than just the second half, Elijah.
That's fundamentals.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm not making an excuse. I'm telling you why it happened. And it's...
Well, I can tell you why on all the turnovers, but it doesn't mean he's not turning the football over.
No, I know. Let me ask you this, and we'll ask Charlie, because he's had to live the quarterback merry-go-round. Do you risk it in Game 3 of making that change? Now, he may have the answer for you if he's injured. Coach McBride's on the way, hour 2. Stick with us here on Hail Varsity.
The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Thanks for hanging out. It's Hail Varsity Radio, hour 2. We're presented by Currency. For all your equipment financing needs, go Currency. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, welcome in, Mr. Blackshirt. On Monday with Charlie, Coach Charlie McBride joins us. Coach, Elijah and I were wondering if you busted your remote on Saturday. How you doing?
I'll tell you what. I enjoy watching football. Let's put it that way. I don't know whether that was the thing to do for me that last Saturday or not, and I don't think it had a whole lot to do with the game.
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of felt bad, pretty sad about what transpired, and then I look back at what some of the things that happened when we were there, and I know a lot of the coaches, his friends, and his, that I talked to, and I did after I retired more so than not, and I had gone back to a couple of things and, talked to some of the guys that coached there that weren't anymore, and found out a few things that went on, and some of the stuff that we had a player that actually was from Nebraska and went to Colorado, and he just had to leave. I guess before every meeting and all this team meeting, there was always some joke about Nebraska, and he kept saying, here I am, I'm from Nebraska, and I get trashed every time I walk in here.
Mm-hmm.
So, it just goes. It's just one of those things. I'll tell you what I do. I mean, I know I have nothing to do with nothing, and I just go ahead and give them the fine and tell them and don't play them.
Yeah.
I just drop them. I mean, some of the stuff that comes out about. I mean, when I saw the disrespect thing, that was the end of it for me. And what was it? Nobody seems to talk.
Mm-hmm.
And
Rhule talked about it today, Coach, where they met at midfield. They have a prayer or have an opportunity to pray for safety is where Coach Rhule's coming from. They invited Shedeur Sanders to pray with them. And do we have that clip, Elijah? We'll play it for you here, Coach, so you can hear it as well. But there's a whole lot of stuff, it feels like, that's being manufactured so Colorado could play that disrespect card. But, Coach, listen to this. This is Coach Rhule's comment on the perceived disrespect part, or it's personal type mentality going into last week. Here we go.
We do it every stadium. We go there, we pray for blessings. When they came in, I asked them if they wanted to, I asked Shedeur if he wanted to pray with us. I mean, I pray over every, I'm a public official, but I can have my own faith. And I say pray, we take a moment, the team, it's non-denominational. We have Muslim guys, we have non-believers. We just take a moment as a team and I want that field to be safe for everybody. At the end of the game, no one's going to tell me who I am. At the end of that game, they told me, hey, we're going to run right off the field, and they're going to storm the field. I said, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I don't care if I get beaten up by a mob. I'm running across that field, and I'm shaking Coach Sanders' hand. So people can say, when you're losing, people are going to say all kinds of things about you. I know exactly who I am. And I'm coaching this team with class, and I'm not changing. And I went over there and I shook that man's hand. I whispered in his ear, and I've never disrespected an opponent a day in my life and never will. So
that was Coach Rhule's explanation. Well put. And, it was twisted and painted a certain way, it sounds like, Coach McBride.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, it's what they say is what is going to come out, from there. It's just sad that stuff like this happens. And before he even came here, I think he didn't know anything about any kind of a rivalry, and then to say before the game that I'm playing this game, it's personal, and stuff like that. Personal about what?
Mm-hmm.
Speak up, not just walk around and say it's personal, and I just have a tough time with some, and I don't think it's worth the time of day to mess with it.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what it's all about. And, somebody else can use the money. I'll tell you that.
Just let it fly and pay the fine and just go off on it. Charlie McBride's with us. Coach, what'd you think? What did you think with Nebraska? Let's get into the game for a moment. And it was 13-0 the last 4 minutes of the first half. Nebraska's defense, I love watching this defense play. And then the second half happened, and there were some big plays they gave up, but they fought their heart out, is what I think.
I do too.
The offense is a problem, and they're working on it. And I know it's a team game, but you got to feel for this team being 0-2.
Yeah, the kids. There isn't anybody that goes on a football field that goes out there and said, well, I'm going to go illegal procedure myself a couple of times just for kicks because it's so much fun.
I get you.
And a lot of people that talk after the game, they ought to take a look at themselves first. Before they have a speech to give and know everything about. They don't go to practice. They aren't around these kids. They don't know them. And if they did, they wouldn't be saying the things they probably are saying. I don't know all of it because I'm not there, but I know there's enough trash being thrown around that, it's everybody's fault. It's somebody else's fault. It's never their fault. I mean, they just sit there and can scream, and you don't know nowadays whether it's some guy from Iowa or some guy from just to try to trash your recruiting or whatever it is. Yeah, I wouldn't trust anybody I don't know, or if I hear his name and I don't know who it is. And it's tough to take some of that stuff time and time and over and over and over again. And there's not everybody happy. We were winning, and and I'd get trashed, and that's okay. That's part of what you pay for. You can say anything you want, and we all realize that. All of us at coaching, we talked about it, and they said, hey, they're putting a buck in. They can say what they want, I guess. But why would you have a program that's a good program and try to trash it? And the thing is, you want to try to build it up. It's easy to tear things down. It's hard to build things up. It's no different than a house. I can build a house, but I could tear it down in about 1/3 the time that I could build it. And, that doesn't take long to screw a program up. And when you're getting in a position now with recruiting, with signing coming up or whatever, and things like that, all you're doing is hurting the program. And if you want it to be good, then swallow it, So that's just me. Sounds like I'm such a good guy. I'm really not, but it's the idea that the honesty about the program, about football, and the game is a game, and everybody tries to do the best they can if they're involved in it. And sometimes it doesn't work out that way. And sometimes you're glad it doesn't work out that way. You're glad the guy's offside. You're glad the guy does that stuff. But that's part of it. But you don't have, as a fan, you don't have to rub it in. And your own people. And that's why I said people ought to look at themselves before they go ahead and explode on young people or even on coaches.
It's Coach Charlie McBride with us here on Hail Varsity Radio. And Coach, I think a lot of that frustration stems from the fact that over the course of the past 5 years, there have been issues within the program that still don't seem to be fixed. And you turn around and look at Colorado, a team that won one game last year, and they already look more put together than this Husker team. Do you think there's any validity to that? Or just what are your main takeaways in terms of what Colorado looked like on Saturday compared to Nebraska?
They're solving their frustration. I mean, I don't blame people for that. I mean, when you win a big game, it makes you feel good after you've been beaten a lot of times, and they have been, but their kids that played, it's the same thing. People just criticize the program. One of the coaches told me one time, it made me really feel bad, was that, when you go to school there and you hear people talking like that, but most of the time they said, how we get money? We either win or we don't get anything. And so it's almost backwards. When you're trying to build a program, your people back you, get behind you, and do the best they can to keep it going. But when you're losing, you have to do something to build it up. And a lot of times it's financially. And so, I saw a thing in the paper where they have a contract with Sanders, but they don't even have enough money to pay him.
I know.
For the whole. I mean, I saw that, and and I don't know how true that is, but I know that they don't have a lot of money, and I can go back on things that after I retired, when I went back there, that they had no, we're sitting with a place for the kids, a computer center and all. and counselors and everything. They have one counselor. They have no computer center. They have nothing. And I called Joe Romig, who's a good friend, and I played with him. He's a Rhodes Scholar. He's an astrophysics major, and he was teaching astronomy there. And in 2 phone calls, he got 50 computers. That's all it took.
Sure. Coach, I wanted to ask you about moving forward here. What do you do at quarterback if you're Nebraska?
Hang in there.
Yeah.
I think you made a commitment, but again, there's a time come when younger people need to at least a chance.
Sure.
And if you're doing all this experimenting, let's experiment quick, because you can't put. I'll tell you what you can't do. You can't take a running back. You can't put them in the game for one play and then sit them down for 20.
Sure.
Or sit them down for 10. I learned that from when Roger Craig used to say, he said, if I don't get a feel for the game, if I go in there for one play or 2 play, I don't get a feel for the game. I don't get a feel for the blocking schemes. I don't get a feel for anything, and it's hard to run. Mm-hmm. But when I'm in the game and things are going, I just get a feeling, where the soft spots are, where they're not, where on different plays, and so it's really hard. What they're doing is trying to find out who the players are, and trying to win a game. Mm. And it's hard, to do that. And somehow they got to do it. And I'll tell you what causes 90% of the problems: the presidents and the NCAA. Way back when I was there, when they cut practice down to 15 days, so many days you can't teach a lineman, to play football if you can't hit anybody. That's like
I'm
playing
with you.
brownies and fairies.
Yeah, I got about 90 seconds. Coach McBride's with us. Coach, you feeling okay about a Saturday rebound?
Sure.
Yeah?
Those kids are going to try. They'll try hard. That's what you will find out. And they're going to play good. They're going to play a good team. Mm-hmm. That's what's good about it. They're going to play somebody, that just because it's Northern Illinois. Those guys are good. And, they got a second crack at about every kid in the state, and they got a ton of kids in Chicago. And so they have some good players. So it won't be just an easy game. You just throw your hat on the field. They'll have to work for it.
Charlie McBride with us on Monday with Charlie. Coach, maybe next year a little payback for the Buffs when they come to Lincoln. We'll see how Saturday shakes out and moving forward where this team can go. But it was fun to talk some ball with you today. Thanks again.
Okay. We'll talk to you next week when we win.
There you go, Coach.
Okay. Thanks. Bye now.
There he is, Mr. Blackshirt himself, Charlie McBride. The dynamic of, and again, people have been pretty vocal about the Sims v. Grant discussion point. And running back v. quarterback, and we'll know more tomorrow just where things are at with Sims's health. And quarterback's touchy compared to running back. But yeah, on its face, you should have similar standards. What's Jay Moore say? Blackshirt Hour continues. Hail Varsity, presented by Currency.
All-State, 2-year starter, and rush in for the Big Red and NFL vet.
Is Dudeness or Duder or, El Duderino if you're not into the whole brevity thing.
It's Blackshirt Jay Moore with Hail Varsity Radio.
Back into it at Hail Varsity Radio. We're presented by Currency. That Blackshirt Hour continues. Nebraska at 0-2, but you know who won this weekend? Jay Moore and his lovely wife, as they got to see Morgan Wallen. Actually, Morgan Wallen got to see Jay Moore and his lovely bride. 10 feet away, Jay. Let's flex a little bit on where your concert seats were at.
Yeah, what did not know we were. It was general admission floor, so we thought it was going to be a little further back, but we got up there and it's like, nope, you actually are up here. And I mean, he could have reached out and grabbed a beer from my hand and took a drink if he really wanted to.
That's a mistake, but here's how this went. GA floor means you get the seats for Jay Moore. Jay taps somebody that's doesn't have the same neck size as him on the shoulder and say, "Sir, would you?" Jay's going, "Excuse me, you're just making your way up front, man. You're bulldozing. I like it."
Yeah, I tell you what, though, I needed that. I needed something to look forward to. I figured, if the results ended like they did, at least I had something to look forward to that night. And I figured Nebraska got the win. The day was going to be better, but it helped hedge my day a little bit. On Saturday with that result I'm sure we're about to discuss.
We are, but the cool thing of the weekend, Jay Moore, Mama Bear at Morgan Wallen, Carson and the Bunny went, and a little beknownst to me that they killed every piggy bank in the Schmidt household to go. But hey, they got to go while Elijah and I had phenomenal prime rib. Elijah had the biggest, thickest cut of prime rib I've seen in some time, and I had a steak. So we got to see Barnett, too, which was cool.
Oh, awesome.
So that was our the game, though, my friend. I want to just get your take as a defensive guy. 36-14. At one point, it was 13-7, and then the floodgates opened, and they opened on 3rd and long. How do you digest that performance defensively? Do you look at it and say, damn, they were good for long enough, or it's a 4-quarter ball game and there was too many busts in the second half?
I look at it as a point where they played good enough to win that football game. At some point, the offense has to do something to help you out. I mean, you gave them so many opportunities. You played so well through the first, you call it 40 minutes of that game. I mean, you were really darn good. And you held them to field goals after turnovers. You got off the field on 4th down. You got the field on 3rd down. You made an offense that couldn't miss the week before, looked confused at times. You were able to create pressure. You were able to sack a really good quarterback. And Travis Hunter wasn't doing much. The run game wasn't doing much. You did enough. There has to be some time, because like I said, I always say that college football the momentum is so key. We had an opportunity to grab the momentum that the defense was able to establish and give us in that first half, and maybe even into the 3rd quarter a little bit. And obviously with the turnovers, missed field goals, and just the penalties, we weren't able to grab it. And then at some point, the dam is going to break, right? It's just that Colorado offense is so powerful. And now we're at altitude. The defense has got a ton of snaps. They're not getting any help. It was only a matter of time before they were going to make some moves. This is a good football team. They're able to adjust, correct some mistakes they made in the first half and implement a new plan, and they did. And they got over top of us a couple times and on 3rd and long, but you just got to get some help from the offense, and that obviously didn't happen. And it's very concerning now heading into Northern Illinois and the rest of the 10 games in 2023 that this offense is not very good.
Jay, a bit of a 2-part question here when you look at the mood of the defense. First off, after playing damn near a flawless first half, and I don't mean in terms of not allowing Colorado to pick up any first downs or any yards, but in terms of the scoreboard, that game realistically could have and should have been 0-0 if Nebraska, the offense...
Could have been 10-0 Nebraska.
Well, yeah. If the offense doesn't shoot themselves in the foot, either that's a tie ball game or you have the lead going into halftime. So what is the mood in that locker room at halftime whenever you look up at the scoreboard and see that you're down by 13 points in a first half that you played phenomenally well? And then as a follow-up to that question, does that mentality, that frustration seep over into a week of practice? As you try to get geared up for Northern Illinois, as you try to put that last game behind you, does that seep into the back of your mind as you're preparing for a week of practice? Like, hey, all this work we're doing this week, is it going to matter when Saturday rolls around if the offense shoots themselves in the foot?
I don't think the defense I was a part of, and I was a part of some decent defenses that didn't get some help from the offense. It was never been this bad, but there was times where we struggled. I look at the 2005 season. We had a really good defense, led the nation in sacks in 2005, but we didn't get a lot of help from our offense. But I think you are so preoccupied with what you're trying to do on defense that sometimes you can't worry about what the offense is doing. Mature, good defenses, you just got to go out and play no matter what the situation is. And there's gonna be times. I mean, I don't know. I hope. I mean, you always think as defense, there's gonna be times where you're going to struggle, and hopefully the offense is going to pick up your end of the bargain. But I don't know if that's going to be the case this year, unfortunately. But I don't think there's ever a frustration with. You can't ever get to. Yeah, of course you're gonna be like, gosh dang, I wish we could get some help. I wish we just gave them great field position, and the field goal was blocked. They missed the field goal, or they turned the ball over. You just can't. You can't get yourself caught up in that because this game is too complicated, and it's such a fast-moving game that you have to stay focused on what you got to do. You cannot be worried about what the offense is doing. You just can't. You have to go out there, focus on your one role of that 11-man defense, and go do your job. And if the offense is not going to give me help, so be it. You keep doing your thing. You cannot get frustrated. As hard as it may seem, you can't do it. I think that's just what good defense and mature defense will do, is just focus on what's at the task at hand, and you just try to hopefully make the situation better. What do you got to score, create more turnovers? I mean, if I was going to give the defense, I'm not a negative, but it's like something they probably could do better. They're probably have to create more turnovers and maybe score. And I know that's asking a lot because this defense is really, really good, but there's been a couple times, and even that game, there should have been some interceptions, and we didn't get them. This defense is going to have to make some plays to grab the momentum, turn this thing around, and get this thing going in the direction it needs to go, because I just don't see the offense giving us much help the rest of the year.
Jay Moore's with us. Big Red Wrap-Up at JMoore44. On Twitter's where you find him. You watch him Tuesday nights on Nebraska Public Media. So, Jay, I want your thought on the quarterback situation. You've addressed what mature football teams do, and that is support one another. Let's get into what Rhule's going to be watching this week. A, it's the health of Sims. B, it's the reality of having to have a Haarberg or a Pretty ready to go. And I would like to see Haarberg. That's an easy take, but I know it's bigger than just as simple as, well, okay, maybe this guy will take care of the ball better. Wonderful. But there's a big dynamic. There's a team dynamic that you have to worry about. And Sims is a popular guy for a reason in that locker room. He's a guy that people want to see succeed. I just remember watching him and Henrich together on the bench. I mean, there is care and compassion between different sides of the football on that team. It's the chemistry part's been very real and well cultivated by Rhule from the dorms to now, this adversity. How'd you handle it, man? Put your headset on. What do you think of the quarterback?
Yeah, it's not a great situation. I think Jeff Sims has all the capability in the world to be a good quarterback, but rule number one, as a quarterback, you got to take care of the football. No, I mean, and if you can't do that, then you're not going to be a good quarterback. And rule number one of the what's the most important aspect of offensive play? Getting the snap. Now I know there might have been Rhule might be alluding to some issues that they handled the crowd noise bad. There was some mistiming with the snaps, and that might have led to some of the fumbled snaps. But still, hit your hands, catch the ball. Right? You're a Division I athlete. So it's going to be a very interesting, it's not an easy situation because you brought Jeff Sims in. You said Casey Thompson, you're not our guy anymore. Obviously Casey was a darn good quarterback here last year for us, but you hit your wagon to Jeff Sims and say, hey, he's our man. You make some comments that, NFL draft scouts think he's an NFL type of quarterback. I haven't seen that yet, but he has to take care of the football. I don't know how you do it and how you get there, but you have to it's the turnovers. You just can't have them. You cannot have them, and you cannot have them for the rest of this year. I mean, if they turn the ball over 4 more times against Northern Illinois this weekend, they're going to get beat. Just simple as that. And the interesting fact now is you look at, because if this is your guy and you brought him in for a reason, it's just you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, right? Do you want to stick with him because you want him to get better and maybe outgrow these turnovers and get past them and he can get some confidence? Or do you set him to the side and say, hey, man, we can't play you. You are a liability to our team. So that's the situation that they're dealt at hand. But also, I'm reminded this is kind of the where the rubber kind of meets the road of all the offseason talk and all the hypothetical situations. But Rhule said it: either you're coaching it or you're allowing it to happen. So I want to know if that's the. Obviously, they're not coaching turnovers, but now are you allowing it to happen? Because that shouldn't happen. These should not happen. And if you can't get him over the situation, you got to play someone else. Now, if he's able to go out, and I think you're going to see him, and I'm okay with this. If you're going to start him again against Northern Illinois, if he has a mistake with turnover early in the game, I tell you what, you got to. I don't know how you can keep playing him. I just don't understand the situation. I don't know how you can just keep banging your head against the wall for 4 quarters with your quarterback. You turn on the football and just think it's going to be any different. You owe it to your team to give them the best shot to win. Your defense is good enough. Your special teams are, have been. It's only been 2 games. Have been a little up and down as well. But somehow you can just limit the turnovers to 1 a game. I mean, this team's 2-0 if they only have 1 turnover or two total turnovers instead of 8 like we have now, and it's just inexcusable. And it's tough. I don't want the situation. But you owe it to your team if you cannot put a quarterback out there. If the quarterback you keep putting out there just as careless with the football, you can't have it. It's just end of story. So if it happens, I imagine you see Harburg rather quickly on Saturday. If Sims is able to play as well with the ankle injury.
It's Jay Moore with us here, Hail Varsity Radio, as we put a bow on Nebraska and Colorado, talk some quarterback, and look ahead to Northern Illinois. And Jay, whenever you look at the handling of the quarterback situation thus far this year, do you think that keeping Jeff Sims on the field flies in the face of what Matt Rhule has preached this offseason about accountability? Because you look at the Anthony Grant situation, 3rd on the depth chart because of fumbling issues during fall camp, and then he has a fumble against Minnesota in a big-time moment. He doesn't see the field once against Colorado, at least in terms of offensive snaps. Jeff Sims, on the other hand, he's turned the ball over plenty this year, and he continues seeing the field. Does that fly in the face of Matt Rhule's accountability, or do you think the quarterback position is held to a different standard?
I think it's tough because it's different when you have other serviceable running backs. I just don't know. I mean, I haven't seen practice. I don't know what Chuba Purdy or Hendrick Harburg's able to do. I think, yes, Jeff Sim is better than all those 2 options, and maybe they turn the ball over just as much in practice. I don't know that, but I'm guessing that's part of the issue too. And obviously Jeff Sims is their guy. They brought him in for a reason. I do understand that. I've already discussed that at length. But you just have to, it's tough. I mean, it's really hard because you want him to succeed. He's only a junior. He's your quarterback, you would think, going into next year. And if he's going to be the guy, like I said, it's tough to – do you want him to learn on the field and get over these issues? Or you got to say, hey, man, like you're going to have to learn in practice or get over these things in practice somehow, because we just can't have it. I know, and I know it's a rebuild. And I know Rhule said it's not a quick and easy fix. But just because of that doesn't mean you should roll out a quarterback who's turned the ball over 6 times on his own in 2 games. I don't care. I don't care if it's not an easy thing. That's just inexcusable. And that's just being that's just bad coaching. That's just period. If you're going to keep doing it, just with the excuse to say, hey, this is going to take a while. Well, I mean, I don't care if you have to hand the ball off 60 times a game. Quit turning it over. Give your team a chance to win. That's what you don't owe it to Jeff Sims. You owe it to the team, right? You give this team the best shot to win. And if Jeff Sims keeps turning the ball over, he's not going to help this team win the football game. So you got to put someone else in there that's going to take care of the ball. It seems complicated, but talking about it more, it's obviously pretty simple too.
Well, I mean, no one's bigger than the team. I mean, that's what you hear a lot, but you've also got to practice what you preach. And I listen, I think Matt Rhule will make the right decision, whatever that decision is at quarterback. And if a change needs to happen, he'll make that change, because I don't think he's the type of guy to sacrifice. You've just got a delicate situation with quarterback. Guys, I think we all see the upside in Sims. It needs to be, that ratio needs to be reversed. You've seen a handful of cool rollouts and completions, or the 57-yard quarterback keep, the touchdown. You see why folks have rolled the dice on him for 3 years at Georgia Tech and a year at Nebraska, because, damn, he's a physical specimen and he's got a lot of talent. There is talent there, but you gotta flip that ratio of mistakes versus splash wow moments and plays. And can he change what he's been? That's the coach's job. And if he doesn't, then you change. And you adapt or die, which leads us to a bigger question, Jay. We'll wind down this second segment with this, and Elijah and I were talking about it. The expectations in Nebraska, do you despite the 0-2 start, is their ceiling still bowl eligibility, or should you reassess that here after this start?
Well, if they get the turnover situation figured out, then I tell you what, the Big Ten West isn't very good. They're not very good.
It's no Pac-12 this year.
What? Yeah. I mean, I think Iowa's probably the best team in the Big Ten West so far this year. I mean, just what I've seen through 2 games. Illinois has their issues. Purdue has their issues.
Wisconsin's a mess.
Wisconsin has their issues. Northwestern obviously has their issues. So I think the Big Ten West is wide open, and I haven't seen any reason why that Nebraska can't beat them if they take care of the football. I truly believe that. Now, I think Iowa's really good. I think they're I wouldn't say really good. I got to pump the brakes on that. But the defense is always good. The quarterback, the McNamara, gives them a better option than they've had in the last couple of years. Somewhat more of a better weapon on offense, even though it's still struggling. I think the OC Ferenc still hasn't hit that 25 points a game yet. So I think there's some winnable games out there. I truly do. I'd like to think that they're going to get 2 in these next 2 weeks. They're not beating Michigan. That's for sure. You can go on the road and beat Illinois. If you got to take care of the football. You can beat Northwestern. You can beat Purdue. And Michigan State now with this whole situation too. Who knows what they're going to look like with the whole Mel Tucker situation? That could potentially. I wasn't looking at it as a winnable game. So I think I'm rather optimistic in the rest of the season, but that's assuming they take care of the football. But if they can't take care of the football, Smitty, I don't know if this is going to be an issue going throughout the year. I don't know if they can win 2 games.
I don't blame you. If it turns into 20 points off turnovers or 20 lost points left on the field, no, they're hosed. They're done.
Yeah. And the thing is, whenever you talk about the Big Ten West, Jay, we've seen plenty of teams through the years in the Big Ten West have winning seasons with minimal offense and a solid defense. It's possible, but as you are saying, it's the turnovers that's really killing you right now.
Well, Iowa's done it for years. Iowa's done that for decades. Their offense has been terrible, but their defense and special teams are fantastic, and they don't turn the ball over. It's been done before. I mean, it's not that hard. You just got to take care of the ball, flip the field, get points when you can, and hopefully your defense can get you a touchdown or 2 throughout the year. It's not that complicated, but you just can't play football. You're never going to be a good football team if you're going to have 8 turnovers for the first 2 games. I don't care how good your defense is, special teams, or how good your weapons are on offense. If you keep turning over, you're behind the 8 ball, every game.
Jay, last thought. Jay Moore with his Blackshirt Husker NFLer. Big Red wrap-up at JMoore44. What's your morale level? Do you think things do get turned around, or are you just, let's make it to Saturday and see after Saturday?
Yeah, I tell you what, I was very optimistic. Everyone asked me the Colorado game, I feel good about them. I fully expected them to win.
Same.
I did. I fully expected them to win. I knew it was going to be close. I knew the defense was going to play better. I just didn't see them giving them the ball 4 times. I mean, they literally handed them the ball for 3 of those plays. I mean, one guy, it was a bad throw. He made a great play on the sideline. Okay, but they literally gave him the ball for on the fumbled handoffs. So with that being said, my tone has changed, because you just got to, fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to get fooled again, right? So what do we know about this team through 2 games? Defense is really good. Special teams is okay. This offense is really bad because they turn the ball over and they can't get points in the red zone. So I got to assume that's going to be the story for the rest of the year until I'm shown differently, because that's what we've seen through 2 games. So if they come out and they show some promise, take care of the football against Northern Illinois and Louisiana Tech, maybe my tone will change. But until that, I'm concerned. I am very, very concerned for the rest of this year, because even though some of those games look more winnable, they're still Big Ten opponents. And they're still tough. They're still good football teams. They still got Division I, Big Ten athletes on those teams. And if you can't get offense, you keep turning the ball over, you're going to lose. So I need to see a better offensive product, and I got to see them take care of the football Saturday against Northern Illinois. Otherwise, it's going to be a long year, boys.
Amen. Jay Moore with us. Watch him on Big Red Wrap Up. Bird, we'll get caught up again. Thanks for the insight today.
Yep, you got it. Thanks, boys.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time, Hail Varsity Radio YouTube channels where you can find Hail Varsity and watch the show. Hail Varsity Radio, Twitter at HVarsity Radio, at Herbal Essence for Elijah Herbel, Chris Schmidt at Schmidt_radio. Kansas Husker, guys, in your opinion, is having a team prayer at midfield on the logo disrespectful. We touched on it with Charlie. We talked about it in hour 1. The intent. Disrespect's all about intent, right? What's your intention? Well, and how does someone receive said intention?
There it is. There's the 2 sides to disrespect.
You have perception and intention.
Yes. And perception is reality. At least to the Colorado side of things. If they perceive that as a slight,
they're going to keep playing that card, baby. It's like you and I are playing pitch, Elijah. You've got the ace. I know you got the ace because you're going to give me the old third base sign to the dugout that you've got the ace. I'm going to just keep playing that 3.
My take is, who cares if Colorado felt disrespected on Saturday? They clearly used it to their advantage. They went out and won the football game.
No, exactly.
You know who's talking about how Nebraska disrespected Colorado if Nebraska goes and wins that football game? Nobody.
Nope.
Nobody cares if you disrespect them.
Do something about it in your offensive series. Do something about it when it comes to crossing midfield. What was the tweet that's been out there about how many times Nebraska's crossed into opponents' territory through 2 games and the rundown of their possessions? It is going to make you grab and empty a bottle of Jack. If you're a Nebraska fan,
grab it and then empty a bottle of Jack, or grab an empty bottle of Jack.
No, you're going to empty said bottle.
Okay, yeah, okay.
It's brutal. It's absolutely horrible. Dr. Rob Zadiska, we will get some anecdotes allegedly on the offensive line play. Can't wait to talk to him about that. Can the offensive line, the left side, get better? Can the right guard rotation simmer down? You know who's played the best? Bless his heart, it's Ben Hart.
Yeah. Ben Hart, dare I say.
Kind of like
2
games. Said, kind of like you tweeted out, hey, at least he hasn't thrown an interception yet.
Yeah, I don't want to ruin this. Dare I say, he looks like a guy that could have some NFL potential in his future based on how he's played through 2 games. Now, we don't know the quality of the guys he's gone up against in the grand scheme of a season, but Ben Hart's looked like the best member of that offensive line. The right sides look buttoned up. We've been talking about accountability all day long. Nuruddin hasn't been quite what you expected from him the first 2 games of the year, but guess who's behind him? Henry Latovsky has come in and been great, especially running the football.
Henry's been good.
Henry and Bryce Benhart have been fantastic, double teaming on that right side of the line of scrimmage.
Let's squeeze a phone call in, 489-1240, 489-1240. Show will be podcast, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. Hail Varsity Radio is where you can find it, and make sure you like us, subscribe to us, tell us a review, good, bad, or ugly. We want to hear it all.
Up against the shot clock, though, we have about 30 seconds for Russ.
All right, Russ, go for it. Cowboy, thanks for calling.
Hey, real quick, guys. 4 turnovers, you're not going to win any games. If they had the normal 1 in each game, there's a good chance they're 2-0 very easily. And got to take care of the ball and quit making stupid penalties and let that defense dominate and let the defense put you in a better position. But they got to finish drives, and they're not doing that with turnovers and penalties. But when you're giving away Colorado probably earned maybe 17 points. If we had one turnover, it's probably a victory. So I think we just got to stay behind the team, and he's going to have to make a change if he keeps turning over. I would say stick with him for the first half. If he's clean, keep going. If not, get those other two guys ready. They have 2 games to get ready for Michigan.
Sound plan, Russ. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Thanks for the phone call. Back at 4 on Hail Varsity.